Welcome to this presentation. In this video, let us have an insight of geostationary orbit and station keeping. A satellite in a geostationary orbit appears to be stationary with respect to the Earth, and hence the name geostationary satellite. Geostationary Earth orbit satellites are used for weather forecasting, satellite TV, satellite radio, and other types of digital communications. Three conditions are required for an orbit to be geostationary. One is, the satellite must travel eastward at the same rotational speed as the Earth. And the second one is, the orbit must be circular. And the third one is, the inclination of the orbit must be 0. So this diagram shows the geostationary orbit which lies along the equator. The first condition is obvious. If the satellite is to appear stationary, then it must rotate at the same speed as the Earth, which is constant. The second condition follows from this and from Kepler's second law. Constant speed means that equal areas must be swept out in equal times, and this can only occur with a circular orbit. And the third condition, that the inclination must be 0, follows from the fact that any inclination would have the satellite moving north and south, and hence it would not be geostationary. Kepler's third law may be used to find the radius of the orbit. For a circular orbit, the semi-major axis is equal to the radius. So denoting the radius by AGSO, AGSO is given by mu p by 4 pi squared whole power 1 by 3. The period p for the geostationary is exactly 23 hours, 56 minutes and 4 seconds. So that is the mean solar time. This is the time taken for the Earth to complete one revolution. Substituting this value along with the value for the mu, then AGSO is given by 42,164. The equatorial radius of the Earth to the nearest kilometer is AE is equal to 6,378 km, and hence the geostationary height is HGSO is equal to AGSO minus AE, which is equal to 42,164 minus 6,378, which is approximately 35,786 km. In practice, a precise geostationary orbit cannot be attained because of disturbance forces in space and the effects of the Earth's equatorial bulge. The gravitational fields of the Sun and the Moon produce a shift of about 0.85 degree in inclination. And the next what we are going to see is about the non-geostationary orbit. Non-geostationary orbits do not maintain a stationary position but instead move in relation to the Earth's surface. Types of non-geostationary satellites are low Earth orbit, medium Earth orbit and polar orbiting satellites. They occupy a range of orbital positions. For example, LEO satellites are located between 700 km to 1500 km from the Earth, and MEO satellites are located at 10,000 km from the Earth. LEO is a small non-geostationary satellite which operates in low Earth orbit, providing mainly mobile data services. MEO is a non-geostationary satellite which operates in medium Earth orbit, again providing mobile telephony services. Polar orbiting satellites orbit the Earth in such a way as to cover the north and south polar regions. This diagram shows the polar orbit, which is in violet color, which surrounds the Earth in north and south polar regions. And now let us discuss about the station keeping. In addition to having its attitude control, it is important that a geostationary satellite should be kept in its correct orbital slot. So the equatorial ellipticity of the Earth causes the geostationary satellites to drift slowly along the orbit to one of two stable points. One is 75 degree east and other one is 105 degree west. So to counter this drift, an oppositely directed velocity component is imparted into the satellite by means of jets, which are pulsed once in every 2 or 3 weeks. This results in the satellite drifting back through the nominal position, coming to a stop and recommencing the drift along the orbit until the jets are pulsed once again. So these maneuvers are termed as east-west station keeping maneuvers. Satellites in the 6 to 4 GHz band must be kept within plus or minus 0.1 degree of the designated longitude, and in 14 to 12 gigahertz band within plus or minus 0.05 degree. A satellite which is nominally geostationary will also drift in latitude, the main perturbing forces being the gravitational pull of the sun and moon, and these forces cause the inclination to change at a rate about 0.85 degree per year. If left uncorrected, the drift would result in a cyclic change in the inclination going from 0 degree to 14.67 degree in 26.6 years and back to 0, at which the cycle is repeated. To prevent the shift in inclination from exceeding specific limits, jets may be pulsed at the appropriate time to return the inclination to 0. Contracting jets must be pulsed when the inclination is at 0 to halt the changes in the inclination. These maneuvers are termed as north-south station keeping maneuvers, and they are much more expensive in fuel than our east-west station keeping maneuvers. The north-south station keeping tolerances are the same as those for east-west station keeping, plus or minus 0.1 degree in the C band and plus or minus 0.05 degree in the KU band. Orbital corrections are carried out by command from the TT and C, that is telemetry, tracking and command substation, which monitors the satellite position. East, west and north, south station keeping maneuvers are usually carried out using the same thrusters as are used for altitude control. And you can see in the figure which shows the typical latitude and longitude variations for the Canadian NX-C3 satellite, which remain after station keeping corrections are applied. And satellite altitude also show variations of about 0 plus or minus 0.1% of the nominal geostationary height. If for sake of argument this is taken as 36,000 km, the total variation in the height is 72 km. A C-band satellite also therefore can be anywhere within the box bound by this height, and the plus or minus 0.1 tolerance on latitude and longitude. Thus, both the latitude and longitude sides of the box will be around 147 kilometers, and the situation as just shown in this figure is also shows the relative beam width of a 30 meter and a 5 meter antenna. So, as you can see, the beam width of the 30 meter antenna is about 0.12 degree, and of 5 meter antenna about 0.7 degree at 6 gigahertz. Assuming 38,000 km for the slant range, the diameter of the 30 meter beam at the satellite will be about 80 kilometers. And this beam doesn't encompass the whole of the box and therefore could miss the satellite. Such a narrow beam antennas therefore must track the satellite. The diameter of the 5 meter antenna beam at the satellite will be about 464 km, and this does encompass the box, so tracking is not required. The positional uncertainty of the satellite also introduces an uncertainty in propagation time, which can be a significant factor in certain types of communication networks. By placing the satellite in an inclined orbit, the north-south station keeping maneuvers may be dispensed with. The savings in weight is achieved by not having to carry fuel for these maneuvers, allow the communication payload to be increased. The satellite is placed in an inclined orbit of about 2.5 to 3 degree in the opposite sense to that produced by drift. Over a period of about half the predicted lifetime of mission, the orbit will change to equatorial and then continue to increase in inclination. However, this arrangement requires the use of tracking antennas at certain ground stations. Thank you.